helping make sure that our policies are rooted in our fundamental constitutional rights and our deep religious and moral values. Now is the time. This is the time. This is about doing what's right. This is about doing what's right. And all who believe in love, all who believe in justice, all who believe in truth, all who know how to stand together, all who believe in challenge and nonviolent direct action. Let me hear you shout, the right time to do right is right now. The extremists are standing together. The same people that want to suppress the vote are the same ones suppressing wages. The same one cutting public education. The same one blocking health care. The same one fighting, dealing with the climate. The same one pushing a war economy. The same ones that are hurting the least and the left out. If they are mean enough to stand together, we ought to be smart enough to stand together. The right time to do right is right now. Now finally, Mr. President Biden, we love your speech in Philadelphia, but you got to come to Texas. And stop just talking to those politicians who tell you what can't be done. Come talk to the people in Texas. Come talk to them in all of their richness and diversity. Then go to Arizona. You're the president. Can't no senator tell you where you can go. Then go to Manchin's district in West Virginia. And then, like Lyndon Johnson and John Kennedy and FDR and Lincoln, go to the well of the Congress and make it clear we will not pass physical infrastructure until we pass protecting the infrastructure of our democracy. Mr. President, you were elected by a multi-ethnic majority. Senator Schumer, you would not be the leader without a multi-ethnic majority. Your president, you only won by 40,000 votes in 3 states. You won by 70 million in the popular vote, but only 40,000 in 3 states. Mr. President, the time to act is now. Let me tell you something you might not be used to hearing from a preacher, but ain't no need to have power if you're not going to use it for good. Power! The right time to do right is right now. And so they want, Freddie, a political insurrection. But we're here to declare a moral resurrection. The only way they can hold on to power is by passing laws that block power. There is no moderate position. We don't want to hear about a narrower bill. This is not about left versus right or moderate versus liberal versus conservative. Saving this democracy's possibility is non-negotiable. This is about right versus wrong. And the right time to do right is right now. A change must come right now. We want 15 right now. We want the For the People's Act right now. We want our immigrant brothers and sisters protected right now. End that sorry filibuster right now. Make sure every American can vote right now. Get this dark money out of our politics right now. Pass policies that lift everybody right now. These are the common convictions that run through our deepest faith and our deepest moral traditions. The Bible says in Isaiah 10, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children their prey. It's time to start robbing and start reviving and releasing and lifting up right now. Too many people have suffered. We need change right now. And our legacy will be as the people. When the time to do right was here, we stood up. We were counted. We stood together. We came together. We fought together. We went to jail together because we knew down in our hearts the right time to do right is right now. Somebody say America right now. Justice right now. Right now. truth right now, love right now, the fullness of democracy right now, equal protection under the law right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. Somebody say yeah. Welcome the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris to the mic.
Good morning, Austin. Good morning, Texas. My name is Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris. I'm the co-chair with Reverend Dr. William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. I come to you this morning concerned but hopeful. Concerned that our democracy is in peril. Concerned that we have fewer voting right protections today than we did 56 years ago because of the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. Concerned that there are close to 13 million poor and low-income Texans and 5 million Texans who make less than a living wage. Concerned that millions of immigrants do the work to keep our society running and yet are being attacked, separated from families, and denied the opportunity for dignity. I come here concerned that although we live in the richest nation in the world, and we have the resources to end poverty outright today, moratoriums on evictions are expiring. 140 million people in this nation are poor or one emergency away from economic ruin. More than half of our children go to bed hungry. But it does not have to be this way. And so we must be hopeful. Hopeful that people, all of you and people across this state, are standing up. Hopeful that a diverse fusion movement of people are together, demanding democracy, saying voting rights now. Voting rights now. Voting rights now. Immigrant rights now. Immigrant rights now. 15 now. End the filibuster now. Hopeful that such a diverse group of people are not just critiquing what's wrong, but holding up the solutions. We're demanding that we must pass all the provisions of the Poor People Act now. We must restore the Voting Rights Act now. We must raise the minimum wage to 15 now. And I'm hopeful because every step of this march, from Georgetown to here in Austin, people were in parking lots, crying out of buildings, joining as we marched, saying, "We're with you." And folks are here in great numbers today. That's right. Give it up for the people standing up for justice. In our work, we have a saying. We say, "Forward together, not one step back." That is what is happening here in Texas. We will move forward together, not one step back.
I need the person with the sanitizer to be up here. We want a model. No, we have some. They're just not doing it. They're supposed to be up here. I'm a little fussy sometimes. All right. So my purpose was to give the purpose. Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris from the Poor People's Perspective, Poor People's Campaign, and from Texas to the nation. We've asked Brother Beto O'Rourke, who walked all the way, who's standing for what's right. Welcome the son of Texas.
Texas. Let me hear it. Let me hear it for those who came from the Rio Grande Valley, who came from Laredo, El Paso, Dallas and North Texas, the Panhandle, East Texas, a little city called Houston, and all of our friends from right here in Austin, Texas. There are people from every single part of this state who chose to be here right now to stand up and be counted at this moment of truth for our state, for our country, and for democracy. And I am grateful to every single one of you and everyone who made this possible. We started the march today from the parking lot of the AFL-CIO. Our friends in labor have our back and they're leading this fight for democracy. We thank you. I want to thank the members of law enforcement who are here and especially behind me. I want to thank them for the hard job that they have to do. And I want to thank them because it was men and women just like them who on the 6th of January put their lives on the line for this country and this democracy. And far too many of them lost their lives. And I want to thank the Poor People's Campaign and the more than 40 allied organizations, all of whom contributed to the success of this march, of this action, of this rally today. And last but not least, I want to thank Annie and Willie Nelson, who are going to be coming up here in a little bit and playing a great set for everybody who came out here today. You know, Texas may have produced the laws that have made this the hardest state in the nation in which to vote, a state that has closed more than 700 polling places, most of them concentrated in low-income and black and brown neighborhoods, making people wait 5, 6, 7 hours in order to vote. It may be Texas, where our voter ID law says you can use your license to carry a firearm to prove who you are at the polling place, but you cannot use your student ID from the University of Texas at Austin to prove who you are at the polling place. It may be Texas that has proposed new voter suppression legislation to make it harder on those who have a disability, to make it harder on young people, the very old, and those who just want to exercise their right to vote. But I'll tell you what, my fellow Texans, this state has produced some extraordinary leaders, some extraordinary power, and some extraordinary energy. 100 years ago, the state legislature right here behind us, in all their wisdom, passed a law called the All-White Primary Bill that denied the right to vote for any person of color in any primary of any importance in the state of Texas. And one of our fellow Texans 100 years ago, Dr. Lawrence Nixon in El Paso, Texas, who founded the first chapter of the NAACP, nonetheless, though he was a black man and the law said that black men could not vote, went to his polling place, walked up to the election judge, showed the receipt for his poll tax, and tried to vote. And that election judge said, "Dr. Nixon, you know I can't let you vote." And Dr. Nixon said, "I know you can't, but I've got to try." And try he did, year after year, election after election, 20 years into that fight in 1944 with another Texan, Lonnie Smith, they struck down that law in a victory in the Supreme Court, Smith versus Allwright. The persistence, the strength, and the courage of this movement is what it's about. So let me close with this. For those who are tempted to despair at this moment, given everything that we're up against, those Republicans who'd rather defend insurrection than support our democracy, These rigged voting laws in Georgia and Florida and a dozen other states that are going to make it harder for so many millions of our fellow Americans to vote. I ask you to think about Dr. Lawrence Nixon. I ask you to think about John Lewis. I ask you to think about every man and every woman who had the courage of their convictions and did what they needed to do at their own moment of truth in this country's history. Are we going to fight for the right to vote? Are we going to give up until we get it? No. We're going to push through. We're going to push through till we win this. I want to thank each and every single one of you for being here. I want to thank our courageous state legislators who are in Washington, D.C. right now. And I want to thank those Democratic senators like Royce West and Boris Miles who came out today. We are the courage this country needs. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it up.
Spray that for me. Spray it for him. No, him. He keeps forgetting. It's easy to do. All right. Now, my brothers and sisters, we're getting ready to bring up impacted persons. Everybody that comes is going to take their best 1 minute and 30 seconds to say why they marched and why as an impact. And you're going to see the diversity of the impact. The worst thing we could do is make this a binary issue just about black folk versus white folk. This has got to be about the fullness of the democracy. It's got to be. The second thing, and because of the Poor People's Campaign and a call for moral revival, I am bothered by what the extremist descendants of Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms are doing as they have hijacked the Republican Party. Because Lincoln Eisenhower Republicans helped pass the Voting Rights Act of '65. But this is not just bothered by the Republicans' rally. Because we would have the For the People Act if it wasn't for two Democrats. Come on now. And I think y'all ought to be bothered that two Democrats are what's allowing what your state house has made, what your state legislature to be legal. To see if the For the People's Act is passed, all that's illegal. And the only reason Manchin and Sinema are voting with the Republicans and refusing and hiding behind the coward filibuster, because it ain't even a real filibuster because you don't even have to stand up and defend it. It's because they believe in the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and their money rather than the United States Constitution and the people. So we got to be willing to challenge everybody, whoever is standing against our rights. And that's why we've got people coming now who are impacted. I want to invite to come at this time, and they're all going to come to the stage. And I need that clock at 1:30. Danita Jones, Elizabeth Cave, Candice Quarles, Lucy Baines Johnson, Jeff Brandenburg, and Ben Chow. They come in the fullness of their diversity. I'm simply asking you all, when you see that clock at 1 end, to stop so that we can continue to move forward and be safe in this heat and in the midst of COVID. Come on, give your hands up. Give your hands.
Texas. My name is Danita Jones, and I'm an impacted person. And before I go into this, I want you to look around at each other, at your neighbors, and see just how different you are, but you're in this space. You're in this space because you have more in common than what separates you. And the powers that be tell you you should be divisive. You should be one against the other. That's because when you're separate, you are not strong. And in Texas, We are Texas strong. We will fight. We will march till the cows come home. Texas is tired. We are wearied. We are tired of struggling. And we will not take any more. My father used to tell me growing up, and I never understood what it meant till I became an adult. And I want to apologize to the pastors and the ministers for what I'm about to say. But my father used to tell me, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
That's right.
Greetings, Texas. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. A people united will never be divided. It's beautiful, my fellow Texans, to see this show of unity among so many groups and coalitions coming together to mobilize and organize and move as one. It is vital for the success of every aspect of this movement that we come together unified as often as necessary. For all people's rights to justice and as soon as the vote is restored. May we remember this moment as the resurrection of the civil rights movement we still so desperately need in order to restore the sanity to this nation. So we turn and we use the 1960s civil rights movement as the blueprint for this moment. Thus, my charge to you, my fellow Texans, in the form of a question: how will you move from this moment changed? How will you move from this moment motivated? How will you move from this moment willing to risk discomfort and hardship for the sake of bringing change to all our communities? And our community united, we honor the sacrifice of the freedom fighters that came before us, and we call upon their spirits that they may be with us to give us courage and wisdom and safety as we demand justice and dignity for that every person deserves. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Candice Quarles, and I'm a resident of Dallas County and a former council member in DeSoto, Texas. I've marched all week. Where are my marchers at? If you marched with us this week, our voting rights are under attack. I'm a member of Friendship West in member of Friendship West in Dallas, and I like to vote at my church sometimes. And I am tired of this people in this legislative body limiting souls to the polls on Sunday. We should have all-day voting on Sunday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We need to make it easier to access the ballot. We need to make it easier to vote. Governor Abbott, when will you stop fixating on the wrong thing and fix the power grid in our state? We need to expand Medicaid expansion in this state. To the Democrats in Washington, President Biden, Vice President Harris, your re-election will be based on how you show up for us in this moment. Your re-election will be based on how you show up for Texas in this moment. For the marginalized communities, for the women, for the low-wage working people, we need you to show up for us in 2021 like we did for you in November of 2020. To all my marchers, let's keep singing, keep shouting, because we got people power. Because ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people don't stop.
And we welcome Lucy Baines Johnson. Please give it up.
Reverend Barber, you are one one powerful man for justice. And Beto, God bless you for being with us every step of the way. But most of all, I want to tell every one of you just how much your fellow Americans meant to my father, Lyndon Johnson, in getting the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights, and the 1968 Fair Housing Act passed. Without you, the people, we never could have achieved them. And without you, the people, we could lose them. Working for social justice has been our family's passion for generations. On January 8th, 1964, my father declared a war on poverty, saying, "We shall not rest until that war is won."
That's right.
The richest nation on earth can afford to win it. We cannot afford to lose it. Many say this war has been lost, as poverty still exists. But just ask the millions of beneficiaries of Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, Civil Rights and Education Acts if they think this is true. The war on poverty was not our enemy. Too many public policies have been. Too much inequity
That's right. That's
of
right.
incomes and access to jobs and education have robbed our people of a more just America. Today we are in a crisis. The vote gave Americans of all backgrounds and the opportunity to address the inequities of our country. Those seeking to limit access to the vote will strangle liberty and justice for all.
That's right.
The For the People Act and the John Lewis Act protect the right to vote for every American. Black, white, brown, disabled, immigrant, all of us, because it is all of us that make America great. It is time to ensure they become the law of the land. There could be no more fitting tribute for our hero, John Lewis, and no more fitting tribute for justice for all. In the 1960s, Democrats and Republicans stood up together for social justice. It was the right thing then, and it's the right thing now. Now, more than ever before, we need to come and reason together, all of us, to build a more just America.
Yes, yes.
Texas Democratic legislators have risked everything to defend the right to vote for all of us. Justice needs brave legislators on both sides of the aisle. I cannot speak for my father now, as I can assure you I dare not in his lifetime. But I know for sure that he would want me to be with you in the fight for social justice and voting rights. In 1965, when Lyndon Johnson pled for voting rights reform, he invoked the mighty anthem of the civil rights movement.
Right.
These words still beat in my heart. We shall overcome. We must. Thank you.
Yes. Say August the 6th. Come on, August. I need them to tighten up this. August the 6th, 2001. The 56th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act. that we're asking for can be done by then. You need to do it by then. If we go past August, we are going to intensify and embolden our agitation, not just at Texas state capitals, but at state capitals all over this country. We will not shrink in this fight. There's no moderate position. There's only the mandate to establish justice and do what is right. We want to ask now that Marcel, all the folk that marched, we only could have 125 because of COVID. So all of you that marched, raise your hand. And if you see somebody that was marching, they were marching from you, tell them thank you. We want to come up at this time, Marcel McClinton, Gio Brandenburg, and Ben Chow. Come on up together as they come to speak to us.
My body is tired. My voice is shaky, but my mind is determined. Look out into this crowd. This is the Texas that I know and love. What is clear to me is the passion of everyone here, especially the children who marched with us from Georgetown to Austin, because this country has given them no other choice. When I say, Mr. President, you say we need you now. Mr. President! Mr. President! Mr. President! I demand that Congress pass all provisions of the For the People Act now! Do not cheapen my value. Do not lessen my dignity. For my name is Marcel McClinton, and I am 5/5 of a human being. We cannot negotiate with Republicans who pass a bill in support of the Ku Klux Klan. It is impossible. My professors may be upset with me for missing class this week, but I stand here with pride because I know my God is by my side. President Biden, we need you. Earlier this week, I was harassed by a white man who was threatened by me, and I will not be silent ever again.
The march from Selma to Montgomery occurred a few months before I was born. And with every 1960s documentary that I've watched, I was like, if I was alive, if I was old enough, I would have been there. Unfortunately, over 5 decades later, I have to be here. So I drove down from Dallas, and I marched on the first day. And on the second day, Reverend Jesse Jackson joined us. He renewed our resilience. His presence alone inspired us to keep going on a very difficult day. I never could have imagined I would be marching next to him yesterday. But he shouldn't have to be here. None of us should have to be here fighting this fight. And as impactful as the last few days have been, that moment with him I will hold forever. And now I hope he doesn't mind, but I'm going to steal a little something he said yesterday. Voting rights are essential for any other rights to be attained or maintained.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
There is a reason they want to suppress our vote, but times, they are a-changin'. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. And if you showed up to the rally today, if you're watching online, know that you were with us on every step of that walk. Now is the time for our president to stand up and for our Senate to pass the For the People Act, or we will keep marching. Let me close with this. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
There you go.
My name is Benjamin Chow, and I work for the Harris County Elections Department. Last year, I helped to create drive-through voting in Houston, Texas. This was the first time in the state of Texas it was used, and it was so successful that nearly 130,000 Houstonians used it. That's 1 out of every 10 Houston voters. For some people, we were too damn successful. They tried to invalidate all 130,000 votes, but we fought them in the courts, and we won. Now they're trying again, this time to make drive-through voting illegal. That's why I'm here with all of you today to demand our legislature and our governor stop trying to bring us back to Jim Crow and fix the things that are actually broken, like our electric grid. I'm standing here today because drive-through voting is more than just a new way to vote. It was the reason why thousands of Houstonians felt safe enough to vote last year. The people who used drive-through voting the most were mothers of young children. They didn't want to expose their children to the coronavirus, but they still wanted their children to see how important it was to vote. So my message to Governor Abbott is this: if you want to ban drive-through voting, you should know this: a whole lot of those moms are Republicans too. So stop messing with our right to vote and save drive-through voting. Thank you so much.
Let's give a big hand for all of these who represent all of the impacted. As they leave the stage, we're going to bring up our moral and religious, some of our moral and religious leaders, another group of impacted persons who are coming at this time. Let them come. I was sitting here looking out at you all and said, you know, it's a crying shame when folk won't fix the power grid, but then they try to take your power. And while they're coming, those that have spoken can leave, the others can come. I couldn't help but think about a scripture in the Bible: the stone that the builders rejected have become the chief cornerstone. There are 12.7 million poor and low-wealth people in Texas. 2016, the presidential election was decided by 800,000 votes. 2.7 million poor and low-wealth folk were suppressed and didn't vote. There are 5 million people who make less than a living wage. I did a little research on all the rejected folk and found out if the rejected come together, we can lead a revival in this nation. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those that have been rejected because of their race. Those that have been rejected because they're native Indians. Those that have been rejected because they were here first as Mexican, and then we put them out and then got the nerve to turn around and say that they're undocumented in their own homeland. I'm talking about those that are rejected because of their sickness. Those that are rejected because of their poverty. Those that are rejected because of their low wage. Those that are rejected because of their sexuality. They tell me if the rejected get together, there are more of the rejected than those that do the rejecting. And if all the rejected get together, we can end the filibuster. We can pass every provision of the For the People's Act. We can fully restore the 1965 Voting Rights Act. We can raise the minimum wage. We can permanently protect our immigrant brothers and sisters. Turn to your neighbor, COVID safe, and say, neighbor, it's time for the rejected to lead a revival of justice in America. Let me hear you scream. Fidel Guzman, Nikki Boyle, Kathy Robles Cranston, Charlie Bonner, Amatula Contractor, and then family coming together, Christina and Adam, and their daughter, and then Charlie. Some you say, why all these folks? They're not the politicians, right? At our movements, the impacted people speak first, not people who speak for them, but people who are directly impacted. And if you don't have time to listen to the impacted, you ought not be a preacher or a politician.
¿Listo? Buenos días, mi nombre es Fidel Guzmán. Soy miembro líder de Defensa Laboral y trabajador de la construcción. Estoy aquí con Emily Tim, directora de Proyecto de Defensa Laboral. Defensa Laboral es una organización estatal dedicada a generar poder político para familias trabajadoras en Texas. Estamos orgullosos de ser parte en el movimiento laboral de hoy. Damos las gracias infinitas a Texas AFL-CIO por su solidaridad en esta acción.
My name is Fidel Guzman. I am a member of Workers' Defense and a construction worker. Workers' Defense is a statewide organization dedicated to building political power for working families in Texas. We're proud to be part of the Texas labor movement. Let's give a special thanks to the Texas AFL-CIO for supporting this event today.
Estamos orgullosos de unirnos a esta marcha de la democracia con la campaña de los pobres a exigir que el Congreso actúe ahora para detener los ataques a la democracia y pase una reforma migratoria integral para los 11 millones de indocumentados en este país.
Brothers and sisters, I want to change something we don't do. You know, I'm tired also of when we speak in English, nobody translates us. Let him speak in his own language and we'll get it. We'll have to listen at it again. We don't need to do a translation. I want to hear him fully in his own language, and it's being translated online. Come on, brother, speak in your language with all the power you got.
Lo que está pasando en nuestro estado está más claro. Las leyes de los republicanos están tratando de pasar en Texas el camino de mi comunidad hacia la libertad, hacia la reforma migratoria, con un camino hacia la ciudadanía y hacia salarios dignos. Depende de que todos los votantes elegibles tengan acceso a la boleta. Yo he tocado en miles de puertas para sacar el voto, aunque yo no pueda votar. Por eso estoy aquí el día de hoy para proteger el derecho de votar, porque sé que votar es el camino al poder. El derecho de votar es más grande que la política partidista. Es la diferencia entre lo correcto y lo equivocado. Nuestras organizaciones y comunidades trabajaron sin parar en las últimas elecciones para ganar mayoría en el Senado. Ahora es el momento de que el Congreso actúe, use el poder que les dimos para cumplir con nuestras comunidades. Seguiremos unidos para parar estos ataques. ¿Están conmigo? Gracias. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Y si nos echan, nos regresamos.
Yeah, give it up. Give it up. That's right. Bring our next speaker up. Bring our next speaker up. Somebody say, we all Pentecostal today, we speak in tongues. Stand in your own power, in your own voice. Here, my dear sister. Straight up. You got one? She's got one. Go ahead. Give it up for her.
Yeah. My name is Nikki Boyd. I'm with ADAPT and Rev It Up. ADAPT, let me give y'all some education.
Okay.
So the disability, it is Disability Pride Month. Last day of it. But did we get the recognition? No. But I'm telling you, because if you are not knowledge, now you are.
That's right.
31 years ago, this month, also the Americans with Disability Act was signed. Now let me give you a fact reality check. Disability does not discriminate. Disability does not care if you are Republican, Democrat, Independent. You can leave here and get in a wreck. Nowadays, more people are acquiring their disabilities, not born with it. But let me tell you, you will lose your rights as soon as you become disabled. You only are right to an institutional life. I have done nothing but fight. So I am ready to keep fighting. Are you ready? The person who gets paid $8.50 to get me out of bed so that I can be here to be a productive part of this society. I will continue. You will hear me. You will hear me. They hear us. Make them hear you.
That's right. Give it up for our sister.
Free our people, because someday it will be you, and you know it because you're here. And if you're here, that's because of reason. You know how quickly it can be taken away. We're here because it's going to be taken away. So you better be hot and stay hot.
I like that. Say, be hot and stay hot. They asked us, was this a peaceful rally? And I couldn't answer it. I said it's a nonviolent movement. But we can't be at peace because there's too much trouble going on in the world and to the nation. We've got to have justice. And for one thing, my sister just mentioned to us about all of us having disabilities and could have it. And that's why it's so wrong. And let me tell you, I was told and asked by some of the politicians who are Democrats, if we had this gathering, don't add living wage to it and don't talk about immigrants, just talk about voting rights. And they said, I'm telling you what they said now. They said, because we can't do it all. And you don't want to, you want to have one issue. I said, all y'all can understand is one issue. Now I said, this is what we said. We said, now why is it when the billionaires ask, they get trillions of dollars, but when poor and low wealth people and moral leaders and other folk ask, we got to have one issue. To heaven with one issue. We want all our justice and we want it now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Robles Cranston, and I'm a community attendant and organizer of Personal Attendant Coalition of Texas. PAC is the voice and advocates for the approximately 275,000 community attendants, direct support professional caregivers that work for our Texas seniors, children, and adults with disabilities on Medicaid. We advocate and fight for their benefits and increase wages for this workforce so our seniors and people with disabilities can live independently in our community. And I'm sure some of you out there are using attendant services now. So we are here to say, let our people vote, right? Right? We're here for that. The same Texas legislature that is oppressing people with disabilities and other voters by passing Senate Bill 1 is the same legislature that gave the community attendants, guess how much? A base wage of $8.11. Can you figure? So with that base wage, it creates a shortage. It even creates it a harder hardship for people with disabilities to find the workers to come into their homes, to assist them with getting out of bed, feeding them, assisting them in going to the bathroom. We even assist them in voting. These actions are unjust and immoral. So I just need to describe who we are. The community attendants, what? We assist people with disabilities and seniors. But we also are predominantly women.
That's right.
Women of color, Black, Latinx, Asian, and Native Indigenous people. We have no health care, no benefits. This is a women's issue. That is why we must go to Congress and tell them to raise it. That's one of our points. Raise that federal minimum wage to $15 an hour so we, the community attendants, and others that are struggling to survive, we can feed our families, clothe our children, pay our rent, live with dignity and respect without struggling. That's why we must demand Congress to raise it to $15 minimum wage.
Yes, my sister. And you can't get there without voting rights. The same ones that suppress the wages want to suppress the vote. Our next speaker, come on up. You watch what get ready to happen. You just don't worry about it. We got that good. We got the veterans.
It's a beautiful day to fight for the freedom to vote in Texas! Thank you all. My name is Charlie Bonner, and I'm here with Move Texas, where we are empowering a new generation of Texas voters to use their voices and fight against racist voter suppression. But I come to you today as a Texan, as a voter, and a proud member of Texas's diverse LGBTQIA community. Because we know that voter suppression isn't a partisan issue, it's an equality issue. When these politicians can pick and choose their voters, they don't think they're accountable to us. They vilify us, and for some reason, when they're picking the bigots and the conspiracy theorists over everyday people. So instead of laws that help our community, we see attacks. Voter suppression means that we see attacks on trans kids, relentless attacks on trans kids. Voter suppression means that when Black and brown trans women are murdered, the governor doesn't do a damn thing about it. We deserve better. We know that for democracy to work for us, it has to work for all of us. It has to include all of us. So show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what.
Thank you.
Give it up. Now give it up for Amadullah Contractor. Our dear Muslim sister, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, Reverend Barber. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I want to recite a quote from Maulana Ali. A friend is not a friend unless he protects his brother in 3 situations: in his difficulty, in his absence, and in his death. President Biden, my friend, our friend, we are in difficulty because our votes are being suppressed. We are absent from Congress, so we need you to stand up for us there. And we are being killed for exercising our right to vote. My Black brothers and sisters are being killed for just exercising their basic right to vote. So I want to make something very clear. You told us to out-organize voter suppression. And so, Reverend Barber organized, Reverend Theo Harris organized, Beto O'Rourke organized, Reverend Jackson organized, we the people organized, not only to send a message to our oppressors, but to empower you to do your job. We cannot out-organize voter suppression when all the odds are stacked against us, and that is why we out-organized during a pandemic to elect you to do the job that you promised us you would. We marched to show you that the people support the For the People Act, and that it's time to end the filibuster because the people have organized, and the people stand before you, and the people call on you to do everything in your power today to make sure that the For the People Act, with all its provisions, needs to be passed before August 6th. We didn't take shortcuts when we marched, and we don't deserve to be shorted in this legislation.
That's right. Give it up for our sister. Now we're going to have a family to come and speak. Christina, Adam, daughter Sienna, and Brian.
When my mom tells people that...
Wait just a second, baby. It's good. Get up nice and straight.
When my mom tells people that I have two brothers with autism, the first response she gets is, "I'm sorry." Why are you apologizing? One cannot tell you a word about his day, but just play any song for him once and he can recite each back for you perfectly. Another cannot maintain eye contact, but give him the most difficult math equation and he solves it. Defining someone by their ability to conform to social norms in an outdated and ignorant point of view. Some of us don't get to speak with our voices, but all of us deserve to speak with our votes.
Yeah.
My stepdad wakes up each and every day, still tired from the day before. He works 40 hours a week and 20 hours of overtime. He fights to pay everything off, only to realize that the next thing is already creeping around the corner.
Wow.
He feels guilty if he's not at work all the time. He works for a city that wants his labor but doesn't want him. All he wants is his opinion to count towards something he believes in. My family has lived in East Austin for generations. That might change with me. Soon, I don't know if my family will be able to afford even a small apartment in the city. We sometimes go without basic necessities: water, electricity, a functioning AC. We are not lazy. We are exhausted from the endless cycle of poverty. I get no time with my family, even just to talk about my day. Don't tell us to do better if you're not going to listen.
Give it up for this sister. Somebody say, we are exhausted because of the meanness of poverty, but we will never quit fighting to change it. Brian, talk to us.
Soy Brian. I am here to say that the government should listen to our voices, no matter our race, citizenship, or how much money we have. Solo tengo 13 años, pero quiero que me escuchen. Merezco que me escuchen. My family made big sacrifices so I could be here today. My dad is in Mexico. I haven't seen him in years. He made that sacrifice. I make this sacrifice so I get to be what my parents couldn't, an American citizen. Quiero escoger quien me representa a mí y mi familia. Quiero hacer mi parte de hacer el futuro más mejor y ayudar a las personas que necesitan ayuda.
Brian, every time someone like you has to talk about still fighting for rights, it means this flag has too many wrinkles in it. We're going to unroll it, iron it out, and fight until we're one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Give it up for this family. Now, we got a veteran coming. His grandfather was on the wrong side. He's on the right side, and he's come to talk to us. Hear his story, America. Hear his story, Texas, because we coming, and we don't intend to turn back.
Hello, my name is Charles Sims, and I'm a United States Army combat veteran. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to say a few words here today. We now before us have an opportunity to cast off the shackles and the husk of inevitability that have plagued our society for so long. For those of you that don't know, my ancestry contains individuals that accomplished a few major historical events that most today would consider an obstruction to the freedom and voting rights of Black Americans. Several members of my family signed the Ordinance of Secession. However, that has never defined who I am. Love is stronger than hate. My 3 times great-grandfather was a Confederate officer, 3-term United States Senator, and he framed the Constitution of Mississippi in 1890. This Constitution laid the blueprint for the Jim Crow laws. regardless, I stand here today in unity with the community to bring attention to the current voting rights quandary. Everyone in this country, regardless of party, should be concerned with voting rights and the accessibility to vote. Voting rights do not affect only the minorities, but every individual. Therefore, as this Selma to Montgomery style march began, I felt it important to reach out to Reverend Barber and the Poor People's Campaign and extend my hand in peace and reconciliation. I would like to personally thank Reverend William Barber. This kind gesture to reach out, to meet me and embrace me as brother truly means a lot. This is the foundation of how problems are solved. When two individuals from two completely different backgrounds are able to come together organically, bridging party and racial lines so we as a people may live in better tranquility. Dr. King said, all mankind is tied together. All life is interrelated. And we are in a single garment of identity. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We still have a chance to come out of this pandemic stronger and more united than when it began. I don't care if the Democrats or the Republicans win. I want the people to win. Take this opportunity in my hand. Let us move into a new place where love is the norm, not the exception. Let us ignite this spark today. Let us sit down at the table of brotherhood. Let us join minds and hearts and move towards common purpose. And finally, bring unity into the community. And doing so, help to redeem the soul of America.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Here's
sir. Give
your
it up.
blueprint. What will you be a drum major
Give it
for?
up.
How will you use your time, constructively or destructively? Always remember, voting rights are civil rights. Thank you.
Did y'all hear that testimony? The New South is rising. Now we've got 30 minutes. We've got the preachers and others coming. Each one of them has 90 seconds to 2 minutes, their best. And starting it off is none other than our brother from the First Baptist West in Dallas, who when we called to say we need to do this, he said, I got to be out of town, but I'll do everything I can to make it happen and come back. Would y'all welcome the Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes.
Thank you so much, my beloved Bishop William Barber. You are so right. Jim and Jane Crow have some ugly children, and their children are named Janet and James Crow Esquire. Janet and James Crow Esquire are determined to live down to the legacy of racism and fascism in what Maya Angelou called these yet-to-be United States of America. Janet and James Crow Esquire are determined to keep us apart. Janet and James Crow Esquire are determined that those in power hold on to power by any means necessary. And James and Janet Esquire have set up headquarters right here in Texas. They set up headquarters in Texas with their mouthpiece serving as the governor of this state of Texas, and the governor of this state of Texas serving as a mouthpiece for the Confederate legacy has determined that we would have a session of suppression right here in Texas. Is that not a trip? No, ain't that a trip? Because this is Texas, where in February we are still counting the lives that were lost because of a deregulated power grid. In Texas, we find ourselves fighting against critical race theory, while at the same time you have a special session called that illustrates what critical race theory is all about, while at the same time Texas is at at the bottom when it comes to educating our children in this state. Well, at the same time, we are the state where it is hardest to vote, and at the same time, we are a state that is least insured. Oh, but it's a new day in Texas, because even though Janet and James Crow Esquire are trying to run Texas, there's a spirit of Selma that has come to Texas. This spirit of Selma has come to Texas, drum majored by Bishop William Barber and the Poor People's Campaign. They brought the spirit of Selma here because Selma lets us know that change that is transformative does not come from Washington down. It comes from Austin and Texas up. Change does not come from the top down. It comes from the bottom up. And so there's a Selma spirit right here in Texas. I feel the spirit of Amelia Boynton. I feel the spirit of John Lewis. I feel the spirit of Jimmy Lee Jackson. There's a Selma spirit right here that's saying, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. No wonder Common put it like this: Selma is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. Why? Because there's a spirit of Selma here. And because Selma's spirit is here, we are saying to Washington, D.C., you pass all of the For the People Act. We are saying to Washington, D.C., bust up the filibuster. We are saying to Washington, D.C., when you write the John Lewis Voting Right Act, make sure you write it in the spirit of John Lewis, because this is the spirit of Selma. And since it's the spirit of Selma, I might as well close with John Legend, who put it like this. He said, the battle is not over, the victory is not won, and we're going to keep on fighting until victory comes. And then we'll shout, glory, glory, because there's justice in the land. Glory, because there's peace in the land. Glory, because God is on our side. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. God's truth is marching on. James Crow, you got to go. Now let my people vote.
Yeah. Can y'all say it? Say, let my people vote. Come on, let my people vote. Now we have, after the powerful prophetic words of Reverend Dr. Frederick Haynes, Reverend Sherilyn Browning, the pastor of Christ Lutheran Church in Georgetown, who said, if y'all want to start something, start it at my church.
Good morning. It's good to be here with you. I am Sherilyn Browning. As the Reverend said, I am glad to be here with you. And in my faith tradition, we keep on struggling with some ancient stories. We keep on thinking and hearing and playing around with these stories that Jesus told us about a kingdom of God. And back then and even now, it didn't make sense, because this kingdom of God is something where all people are welcomed and valued for their human worth, not because of what they produce or what they consume or what they do, but simply because of their human worth. It didn't make sense to the first people who heard it, and sometimes we keep on struggling with it. And we recognize as people of faith, this is the work of the church, but it is not only the work of the church. Almost 2,000 years later, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from a Birmingham jail about the interconnectedness of all communities and systems. And when he was talking about that, he was describing how he envisioned the kingdom of God as a great world house. Yes. And it started to be built then, and it is continuing to be built now, when people of all stripes gather together to do this work together. We build this world house together. And as for me and my house, it is not okay that people who are working for a living wage cannot rent or buy a house in Austin, Texas. That is not okay. Is that okay in the World House? No. It is not okay for me and my house that folks have to leave their job for a day and stand in line all day at the last remaining polling place in town just in order to have their constitutional voice heard in this land. That is not okay in my house. Is that okay in the World House?
No.
It is not okay.
Not okay.
For me and my house that people who are migrating to this great land just in hopes of a better life for their family would be separated from their children. And in that case, those children might have to go face an immigration system by themselves without legal representation or even a caring adult advocate by their side. That is not okay in my house. Is that okay in the World House? No. I am honored and grateful to be here with you to do this work of house building, this great world house for all people have dignity and value. Peace be with you, but more importantly, purpose be with you.
Give it up. Somebody say, don't tear the house down. Build the house up and let everybody in. His father corresponded and worked with Dr. Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Joseph C. Parker, Senior Pastor, David Chapel Missionary Baptist Church right here in Austin.
In May 1963, in my hometown in Birmingham, Alabama, at the age of 10, I went with my Baptist pastor father, a leader in the Montgomery bus boycott and the Alabama civil rights movement, to the scene of the racist bombing of the home of Reverend A.D. King, the younger brother of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Later that day, we visited the bombing site of the A.G. Gaston Motel, the headquarters of the Freedom Campaign in Birmingham. A few months later, on Sunday, September 15, 1963, after the morning worship at the Jackson Street Baptist Church where my father pastored, he took me with him to the downtown 16th Street Baptist Church. He had received news of the bombing of that church, and as you know, 4 girls near my age attending Sunday school classes at the church were killed, and 23 other people were hurt. These deaths helped galvanize the civil rights movement, and despite a record-setting filibuster, ensured the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The next year, in March of 1965, I watched my father leave home to participate in one of the 3 Selma to Montgomery marches. That's right. And on August 6th, after the bloody Sunday March, President Lyndon Johnson signed the 1965 Voting Rights Act into law. I was 12 years old then. 56 years later, I recognize the right to vote as a moral and sacred matter, not to be abridged or chopped up in our democracy. This right helps to ensure that you and I have the freedom to live as being created in the image of God. It helps you and I hold government agents accountable for doing what is right. It helps you and I to exercise legitimate voting power to ensure that benefits and resources and penalties are distributed fairly and equitably in America. And further gutting and crippling voting rights reveals our country is not well morally. Today I stand in solidarity with those who are fighting the good moral fight that the Voting Rights Act of my father and Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, Dr. King fought and protested, will stay alive. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and for the People Act, hear the words of Isaiah: loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke. Can I say this to you? Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.
That's it. We always, at these gatherings, let the impacted people and the moral leaders speak, because that's too long who's been silent. We've heard so much from the politicians, but not from the people and the moral leaders of the nation. Karina Whitaker Lewis, the Director of Religious Studies, is coming now.
Good morning. My name is Karina Whitaker Lewis, and I serve the San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Georgetown, where this historic march began. Our congregation is honored and humbled to be in solidarity with the Poor People's Campaign and to side with love. I see you yellow shirts out there. I see you. I am a teacher. My role in the congregation is to guide, to help our children, our people, discover what it means to be Unitarian Universalist for each one of them personally. And we all know that actions speak louder than words. As a teacher, this is a show, don't tell moment. This is a do as I do, not a do as I say moment. When we show up and show out for what's right, we walk our talk, as quite literally Reverend Barber told us to do. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We believe in the interconnectedness of all life. And my congregation in Georgetown was living out those values and their faith out loud when we joined in this march and in this moment.
That's right.
Some of us had to stay home, and we understood that. For those who could, walked for those who could not.
That's right.
And I could not be more proud of them. Because march we must, and rally we must, because those values, the values we hold so dear, are under attack. We have to push back and say enough is enough. And that is what we are all doing here right now together today. We are using our voices, our bodies, our minds, our hearts and spirit to fight for those values and the rights that reflect those values.
That's right.
We will not be denied the right to be represented and governed by people we choose, not by those in power who will do anything, including abandoning the democratic process, to keep that power to themselves and the filibuster now. You cannot take away our voice. We will not be denied the right for a living wage that dignifies the value of every person's labor, not just that of the greedy, who will keep so many of us in poverty. We will not be denied the right to seek refuge and protection from war, from violence, and not be imprisoned simply for taking a chance at a better life. You will not criminalize us. We will not be denied. I am a teacher, and I lift up all who have taught me and continue to teach me, most especially the children and adults of my congregation, who I love so much. Kenneth Witherspoon, Jaquita Wilson, Marissa Palmer, Chuck Collins, all of you, the brave people of the movement I am so honored and humbled to be with today.
Give it up! Give it up!
Forward together, not one step back!
Forward together!
One step back!
Thank you for teaching us. The Reverend Gavin Rogers, Associate Pastor of Travis Park United Methodist Church in San Antonio.
Repeat after me. I got your back. I got your back. Leviticus says, when a foreigner resides among you in a foreign land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated like your native born. Love them as yourself, for we were once foreigners from a foreign land. In Mexico City, I had the privilege to travel with the so-called migrant caravan. I was on top of an 18-wheeler at the very edge, on top of one. Hundreds of people were up top, and I was about to fall off, and all of a sudden, arms wrapped around me. And then, behind me, a man wrapped his legs around my waist, and he said, I got your back. Say it again, I got your back. They had no issue treating me, a stranger in a foreign land, like their native born. They had no problem. They became stronger. We became stronger because we were united. Our demand is to fully protect the 11 million immigrants and asylum seekers living in the USA. Say fully protect. Fully protect. Individually, I am imperfect. imperfect and I fail all the time, but together we are strong. We can protect each other, and truly, if we come together, be the moral resurrection. Thank you very much.
Who would know all of these prophets are in Texas? The Reverend Stephanie Wilkins, who's the tri-chair of the Poor People's Campaign in Texas.
Good morning. I'm also a teacher. I love call and response. Good morning. Thank you. I am an ordained deacon in the United Methodist denomination, and I'm also a grateful member of the Texas Poor People's Campaign. When I look out at this sea of beautiful faces, you give me so much hope. This week has been phenomenal. The things that have taken place, the marching, the support, the cheerleading, everything, it has been just phenomenal. And I want to say to Reverend Barbara and Reverend Liz that when we called, you came. And for that, we say thank you. So this movement has begun. This train is rolling. And we are here because someone's hurting our people. How, you say? Sorry, who, you say? The poor, the low income, the LGBTQ+, women, black, brown, immigrant, oppressed, marginalized. That ain't right. How, you say? You hurt them when you suppress their wages. That ain't right. You suppress our voice and our vote. That ain't right. You suppress our right to live. That ain't right. Everybody has a right to live. Say, everybody has a right to live. This has become a political issue, but it's bigger than that. This is a moral issue. You need to stop suppressing and regressing and start addressing and resurrecting. We are in this fight together. Somebody's been hurting our people, and it's gone on for far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Forward together, not one step back.
Not one step back. Turn to your neighbor at COVID safe and say, we've got to win. Say, saving this democracy, there is no way we can fail. Say, it is non-negotiable. Now we want to have the Reverend Bill Hartman, Deacon Bill Hartman of Our Lady Perpetual Help Church in Selma. And then we want to have the Reverend Natalie Well, who said, if you're going to start something in Georgetown, I want you to end it at the University Baptist Church in Austin. We want both of them to come at this time.
Forward together, not one back. Forward together, one step back. Good morning, everybody. I'm Deacon Bill Hartman with the San Antonio group of the Texas Poor People's Campaign. Before joining the Poor People's Campaign, my social ministry was connected with the charity organizations that would feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty. As you've heard this, and it's been taught in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, but all of us who have experienced poverty know that when you have been physically fed, 5 hours later, you're hungry again. The Poor People's Campaign has been different. The goal of the Poor People's Campaign was to empower the poor. This is why I joined the Poor People's Campaign, to help the poor confront the evils that create poverty. One way we know that confronts and erases the evils that create poverty is the right to vote. The right to vote is a sacred human right. just recently, we've heard all sorts of presentations associated with several things. But the main thing is why we are here. Why we are here. Like the Tulsa massacre. We've been educated. We didn't know about the Tulsa massacre. The individuals who gave their lives as martyrs. Individuals like Emmett Till. Individuals like Goodman.
Give it up, everybody. Amen. Give it up. Give it up.
God bless you.
Give it up. Reverend Natalie Webb. Turn this mic up.
My name is Natalie Webb, and I am from the University Baptist Church here in Austin, Texas, where we remember that Jesus said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor." Jesus' ministry began with these words, and friends, when I look around at you, I am here to tell you that the Spirit of the Lord is upon you because he has anointed you to bring good news to the poor. Thank you for showing up for Texas. Thank you for showing up for the U.S. Now, to our elected leaders, especially those of you who call yourselves Christians, you are not here, most of you, so I'm going to look at the cameras. I want to say to you, come back to Jesus.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
Come back to Jesus, y'all, whose ministry was defined by bringing good news to the poor. Come back to Jesus by ensuring that all God's children have access to a living wage. Raise the minimum to $15. Come back to Jesus by making it easier, not harder, for every American to make their voice heard. Restore the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Come to Jesus by welcoming and protecting our immigrant and refugee siblings, of whom Jesus was one.
That's right.
To all of you here marching and watching from afar, may God's peace fill your hearts and fire fill your bones as you continue to do God's work. Amen.
Yeah. In other words, tell all the, turn this mic up. Tell all the politicians, stop putting your hands on the Bible and swearing yourself into office without reading the Bible and knowing what it really says about justice. We want to have another one of our Muslim sisters to come and represent that faith in this community. As you all see, we have impacted people and religious leaders from here. See, too often when folk claim to be nationalizing something, they come to the state and they have all these folk that are not even from the state to speak. That's not how you do it. You let the people hear, and you should always start with the impacted people. I'm so sick of going to rallies where the only folk that speak are the people trying to speak for folk. Somebody shout, "I got a voice, and we shall be heard."
Can we have some fun? Can y'all sing with me? I have a song and I know you know it, but the stars are, wait, did I keep it going. The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. I'm singing that song because y'all, our star is rising and they're scared. They want to stop us from using our voice, but are we gonna let them? No. A little louder, are we gonna let them? Because we're here to fight for all of our voices. Even though I'm standing here as a Muslim, I'm not here just to fight for the Muslim voice. I'm here to fight for all of our voices, because when we all stand up, we're stronger together. When I think of Texas, are we a red state? Do you know what we are, though? A non-voting state. And it's by design, but we're here to change that, right? Did you know that Texas has one of the largest Muslim populations in the nation? We come out and we're gonna keep voting, and I just wanna say one thing to y'all. We're not gonna let them stop us from coming out, and this is our country, and I'm what an American looks like. Brother Malcolm said, I learned early in life that if you want something, you gotta make noise for it. So let me hear y'all make some noise.
Make some noise.
Let's get out there, y'all.
Somebody say, this land is our land. Our land. Now, anytime you're having a moral revival and a moral resurrection, right in the middle of it, you gotta have some music. You gotta stretch yourself. See, we don't have to use hate, we got love. We don't have to use hell, we got heaven. We don't have to use lies, we got truth. We can sing and fight at the same time. Yara Allen is our national theomusicologist. She found a bad group of Texans around here that know how to sing and get it going on. They told me they got a jazz version. And jazz version. Are y'all at the mics yet? I can't hear y'all. Y'all at the mics yet? Come on real quick, musicians. I need to hear you. Are you at the mics yet?
Yeah.
Are you ready, Yara?
Yes.
Can I hear that keyboard kick it one time? Can I hear the drummer? Come on, Yara, lead us. Come in the middle. Come on in
So
the middle.
you just marched, let's say, from Selma to Montgomery, right?
That's right.
And as Pastor Freddie Haynes said, it is in the spirit of. And so we invite the spirit of our ancestors, and we invite the spirit of our elders as we sing one of their songs. Woke up this morning with my mind.
Come on.
How about it stayed on justice?
Well.
All right? Let's go.
Come on, Texas. Put those hands together. Let America hear it. 'Cause we ain't going nowhere. Come on, everybody.
Give it up for the Texas
Now we have exactly 12 minutes and exactly 7 speakers, and they got to give 1 minute and 15 seconds. And somebody say, ain't gonna take that long for them to cuss. No, we don't want you to cuss that bad. Where's my little Brian? He's supposed to take this with him. And we want to invite them to come. I'm gonna call all their names. They're gonna all respect each other. And then we're gonna end with some instructions. And then the concert. We ought to get Willie and y'all to sing together. What y'all think? Y'all send a message to Brother Nelson. Say he ought to get with Yar Allen. Now, you know, sometimes oppression will lie to you. And oppression will tell you that they're gonna bury you, your rights. You know, I've had people since coming to Texas send little ugly messages. You come to Texas, such and such a thing gonna happen. But you know, we trust God and we trust the good people of Texas. So sometimes oppression will lie. I think that oppression is lying when they say they're gonna bury our minimum wage raised to 15 and our People's Act and our voting rights and our protection for immigrants under the filibuster. I think they more noise than they are power. And we stand up, we have the power. Anything in that casket? I knew they was lying. Ain't nothing in there. Ain't nothing in there. They so bad. Ain't nothing in there. Ain't nothing. Rick him up. Anything in there? Get out of there. John Brown at voting rights ain't done got up. Justice has already got up. Living wages has gotten up. Because you cannot keep good down. Truth trust to the ground shall rise every time. So we want these to come in. Cliff Albright or Donna, which one are here from Black Voters Matter? And we thank God for our dear sister, Latasha Brown. And then Julio Acosta from the Reform Immigration for Texas Alliance. Then we're gonna have Brother Mark Thompson, one of the great radio personalities in the country. And then none other who's been following us all week everywhere, Roland Martin. A good old Texas boy. Y'all come on and give your best 115 and tell the story.
Hey, Texas! Oh, you look beautiful out there. Thank you. You know, I'm Barbara Arnwine, and I am the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. I'm joined by my co-leader, Darrell D. Jones, Esquire. Yeah, there's some good lawyers out there, and we are some of them. But I just want to say one thing. We were with Reverend Barber 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we all got arrested with Reverend Jackson in Washington, D.C. We were together, believe it or not, on Monday in Phoenix when we got arrested again. Oh, and guess what? Where are we right now? We're here in Texas. Because we got a word. We got a word for the U.S. Senate. It is time for you to do your job. Pass the For the People Act now. Pass D.C. statehood now. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Investment Act now. We know that if John Lewis was here, where he would be at this moment, he would be standing next to you. We know that if Lyndon Baines Johnson was here, he would be standing right here saying, free to vote, free to vote, free to vote, free to vote.
Give it up for Barbara Arnwine. Transformative Justice Network. Transformative Justice Network.
Good morning. I'm Evie Marziani. I'm an attorney and I'm the president of the Texas Civil Rights Project.
So, Texans probably remember that when Greg Abbott was Attorney General, he used to brag, I wake up in the morning, I go to the office, and I sue the federal government. That was the Obama administration. I mean, you could say a lot of things about that, but that's Texas grit, right? So with that sort of grit, why is Abbott so afraid of letting Texans vote?
That's right.
Over the last 10 years, Abbott and his allies have worked time and again to make voting more difficult for every single one of us, but especially for people of color, young people, folks with disabilities, and folks with less money. Why? Look, I identify with that sort of Texas spirit that Abbott claims to have. I'm plucky, I'm independent. I mean, hell, I get up in the morning and go to work and sue the government. Just the one that Abbott now runs. So let me tell you from my front row seat what's going on here. Years ago, the people leading Texas made a cynical calculation that faced with explosive population growth of people of color and young people, that they would rather barricade access to the polls than hear what the people have to say, what you have to say. And history tells us what we have to do when states work to subvert democracy. Federal reform. That's why it's so damn important you're here today, and that's why we need federal reform, not next year, but next month. Thank you all.
That's right. Everybody shout, we need federal protections. Mr. President, Madam Speaker, Senate Leader, Democrats, we need federal protections. Now.
Bishop Barber, thank you so much for coming to Texas and organizing such a spectacular march and rally. Gracias. Thank you. I know it's hard for politicians to stick to a minute, but I'm going to try. You know, just a couple of days ago, it was reported that the Biden administration had worked with Congress to get a groundbreaking infrastructure deal done. And in the write-up of its success, they said that the administration had had over 300 meetings pushing the House and the Senate to pass their infrastructure deal. We're here today in Texas with a loud and clear voice to tell President Biden and Congress that we need you to meet 300 times to work on the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We need you to work on raising the minimum wage and fighting climate change and protecting workers and protecting immigrants and creating an America where everyone counts. That's what we're here fighting for. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Gracias.
Go, Julio! Yes, sir. Don't y'all like coming here so you can find out the truth? I didn't know they had 300 meetings on the infrastructure. Where are those 300 meetings on voting rights? And then in the filibuster, say we want our 300 and whatever else it takes. And we want it now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna LaFay, the state coordinator for Black Voters Matter.
Yeah!
And I always like to start with either a story or a scripture. So today I'm going to be reading from Joshua 10, 12 through 14. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord in that day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, sun stand still over Gibeon and moon in the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped till the people and had revenge upon their enemies. And there has not been a day like that before or after that the Lord heeded the voice of man. The Lord fought for Israel. Wow. My heart is full of hope and joy today. And I can sense in my spirit that a door is opening before us. But that only matters if we fully recognize the power of the moment we're in. It's our generation's turn to secure the rights and freedoms that have eluded us far too long. And it's imperative that we acknowledge the wisdom, love, and strategy passed down by our elders. No more will we politely ask for that which we should possess at birth.
Anyway.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was intended to create and preserve access to democracy regardless of race, age, education, or socioeconomic status. But over the past few decades, we've seen a relentless, organized effort to suppress the voices of those the VRA was meant to protect. They've already declared war on our communities, and we must unify ourselves and make a demand on the creative, loving, and omnipotent spirit that lives within us. Yes. We must rise up as a moral army and trust that there's protection and provision guaranteed for those who walk in their purpose. Victory is inevitable if we fortify our minds, purify our hearts, and ground our spirits in the will of the Father. As always, remember that we are the remedy to what ails this country.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, y'all. My name is Julio Acosta. I'm with Reform Immigration for Texas Alliance, a project of the Border Network for Human Rights. We're a coalition of immigrant rights organizations across Texas. We are living in historic times. Many of our ancestors made sacrifices so that we could even get the right to vote. Some paid the ultimate price. We applaud and send light and love to everyone across the state, around the nation, and around the world that is defending democracy. Abbott, his co-conspirators and enablers are not only attacking our communities by trying to disenfranchise us. When I pause and raise my fist, y'all yell shame. He's attacking immigrant communities by trying to take away the licenses of the child care facilities that take care of migrant children. Shame! He's using our taxpayer money to illegally build a racist, white supremacist border wall. Shame! He's directing the Department of Public Safety to racially profile vehicles that seem like they have undocumented passengers. What is morally fair and just of the U.S. Congress and the President, a pathway to citizenship for the more than 11 million, prompt reunification of families, demilitarization of our border communities, and accountability of law enforcement. Thank you.
Give it up. Mark Thompson.
We bless Dr. Barber and Dr. Theo Harris for calling us here. It is appropriate the comparison to Selma and Montgomery, the march. For the original plan was a Black Lives Matter march. The plan was to march the casket of Jimmy Lee Jackson from Selma to Montgomery and lay it at the steps of the Capitol to hold Governor Wallace accountable for what he had done. It is also appropriate that we argue to end the filibuster right here in Texas, because much of the meaning of the filibuster began right here in Texas. Right here. The filibuster got its name from a group of people known as filibusterers. And they used to go into Central America and South America, all over Latin America, and try to annex countries to become slave states of the Confederacy. They were the ones, the filibusterers. The people in the Central America referred to them as filibusteros. They were the ones that lobbied for the annexation of Texas as a slave state into the Union. And so the filibuster then was about slavery. The filibuster today is about slavery. The filibuster represents a small group of white men preventing a majority from voting. That's right. And there's another name for that, and we call it apartheid. But we know insurrections never win. That's right. Only resurrections win. This is a moral resurrection and an example of Dr. King's beloved community. We are love. And so we say to the governor and to the state legislature, this is real love. This is the beloved community. If you're looking for real love, what you see today is exactly what you get. God bless you all. Forward together. No step back.
Say it, Mark. Say, this is what real love looks like. A son of Texas is coming now, none other than Roland Martin. Unscripted.
When Reverend Barber called me and said, should we do this? I said, when are we going? I told him, I said, that's where I'm from, but see, I'm not just from Houston, born and raised. This is my voter registration card. I'm still registered in Dallas County. And so when we talk about why we are here, I'm not just here for me. I'm here for my nieces Chloe and Anastasia and Atlantis and Trey and Faith and Solomon and Michaela and Chelsea and Rachel and Raquel and Elizabeth and Chris and Jeremy, for my 74-year-old parents who still work the polls in Dallas. That's why I'm here. This requires people today to care enough to fight for what's right, and there's got to be modern-day shamers. If you read 2 Samuel, what you'll see, there was a field of lentils, and the Israelis, they say, you know what, we're going to run past it because it wasn't important. There are some Democrats in this country that say voting rights is not important. I dare say this is the fight that we must have. We must be engaged in. We must challenge every weak Democrat, every sorry Republican, every silent independent, that you will not stand in the way of our right to vote. In the words of my frat brother, Bertner Woodson Tandy, I'm an alpha. He said, we will fight until hell freezes over, and then we will fight on the ice.
Yeah. Say, we will fight until hell freezes over, and we'll fight on the ice. My brothers and sisters, now we must go from rally, on the stage, rally and resurrection to continuing, because you never get up out of a grave, on the stage please, you never get up from the grave and then stay in the graveyard. You always get up so you can go back to work and do more of what you were doing before you died. I know some of them tried to during the pandemic, but look at you now. Turn this mic on. Look at you now. And if you want to keep up with what's going on, go to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org, because we're serious. If they don't get this done, Barbara Irwine says you shouldn't even have a recess until you do right. No recess till you end the filibuster. No recess till you pass all the provisions of the 40 People Act. No recess till you restore the Voting Rights Act. No recess till you raise the minimum wage to 15. No recess till you have permanent protection for all undocumented. No recess until you restore protections against evictions. No recess until you deal with reparations. No recess. We're tired of you staying and working for the corporations and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and treating the corporations like people and the people like things. And so there's a moral resurrection happening. Go to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org. Now, we leave from here. Over 1,000 clergy and low-wage workers are going to be in Texas. This mic is going out. Some from Texas on Monday. And we are committed to engage in moral, direct action. One of the largest ever in the history of the country. If that's what it takes. That's what it takes. I'd rather have on handcuffs than let people chain up this democracy. Give me this mic. I'd rather sit in jail than to watch them chain down living wages and block rights for our immigrant brothers and sisters. Just like COVID, you don't take an aspirin for COVID. We can't take a narrower bill for voting rights. We need a full antidote, a full vaccine against racism and classism and retrogression. I want to ask a diverse number of the speakers to come up behind me because I want to say something before we bring on our brother Willie Nelson. If you want to text to know what's going on, text Moral, M-O-R-A-L, to 38542. That right, Liz? That's right. 38542. Come on up. I want y'all to give it up for Brother Beto. God knows. And you don't have to be partisan to send a little piece of money to his group that's trying to protect those legislators and fund them being able to stay up there.
Yes.
Text Moral, M-O-R-A-L, to 38542 or go to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org. Does it look diverse behind me, black and white and brown? Let me have this is the America they're afraid of, and I think we ought to help realize their fears. Because you know what? If we do it with love, some of them might come on over and let us love them in the right way. We not only look for resurrection, give me a towel, we look for redemption. We don't hate individuals, we hate the evil policies. And there it is possible. Lyndon Baines Johnson wasn't always on the side. And his daughter we talked about this, voting rights. He wasn't. He told King and them to go give him some power. He come from Texas. He lost friends because he decided to stand up for the Civil Rights Act. Russell in Georgia turned on him like a dog. Russell was the white supremacist out of Georgia. They said, come on, Lyndon, you're from Texas. But Lyndon said, but I got to see God one day. And I ain't gonna see God. You know, I might have some personal faults, but I'm not gonna see God and not do right when it comes to justice and voting rights while I got the power. What if we had listened to him on poor people? What if we had really finished the war on poverty? And so as we get ready to bring on Brother Willie, and Brother Willie, I got to fist bump you because I love you. My brother Frank Jones told me to tell you hello, and I hope you and Yara come up here. I want to do one song. I hope Willie will jump in a moment. But Brother Beto, where are you? I want to tell you something. Stand right here. I want to tell you something. This is the right time to do right. Ain't nobody that ever been president was remembered because they gave infrastructure. But they did get remembered when they freed the slaves. They are remembered for the New Deal. They are remembered for women's suffrage. They are remembered for signing the 64 and the 64 Civil Rights 65. Those are the things that matter. And Brother Beto, when I came to Texas, they told me you got some rattlesnakes in Texas. And my son is an environmental physicist. And so he told me, he said, Daddy, you got to deal with rattlesnakes a certain way. Because rattlesnakes are cold-blooded. He said they live in the low country. You can't kill a rattlesnake, can't fight a rattlesnake on his own territory. They tell us that up in the mountains, there's a line called the snake line. And if you can get above the snake line, you don't have to worry about rattlesnakes, because rattlesnakes die at high altitude. They can't breathe. They asphyxiate at high altitude. We got some snakes in America. Voter suppression is a snake. The lack of living wages is a snake. The filibuster is a rattlesnake. Blocking immigrant rights is a snake. We got to get this country to higher ground. We can get them to higher ground, they'll asphyxiate. Higher ground is ending the filibuster. Higher ground is passing a living wage. Higher ground is taking care of immigrants. Higher ground is voting rights. Touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, let's go to higher ground. Lord, plant this country on higher ground. Plant the Senate on higher ground. Plant America on higher ground. Plant the Senate on higher ground. Plant the president on higher ground. Plant Brother Beta on higher ground. Plant every state on higher ground. And the snakes will die and justice will live. Oh, we love you. God bless you. God bless you. Yara, come to the mic. Where's Brother Willie? I don't want to get too COVID close to him. Brother Willie! Give me that hand mic. Let me put my mask on for Brother Willie. I'm going to put my mask on for you. How about that? He said, I'm fine.
I've been double shot.
You been double shot? Well, I've been double shot too, but one time I almost got double shot trying to, well, I wasn't a preacher then, chase a deacon's daughter, and he had a shotgun. And
it happens.
You know how that happens. Lord have mercy. Come here, Yara. How about a we must overcome? Come on, musicians.
Also, let me say this.
Yes, sir.
Reverend Barber, I want to thank you for all the help you've been to America's farmers.
Oh, yes, sir. Love the farmers.
You have stood up for them for years, and they appreciate it. All of us do. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. We must overcome. Come on, Yara. We must overcome. Everybody. We must overcome today. Oh, deep in our hearts. We must. We must overcome. We must overcome today. Oh, deep in our hearts, I do believe we must overcome someday. All right. We'll see you when victory happens. We'll see you in Washington, D.C. You are the moral resurrection, and the nation will never be the same. The right time to do right is right now. I give you our country brother from Texas, none other than Brother Willie Nelson.
Steps off the back, you can go too.
Whiskey River, take my mind. Don't let her memory torture me. Whiskey River, don't run dry. You're all I got, take care of me. Whiskey River, take my mind. Don't let her memory torture me. Whiskey River, don't run dry. You're all I got, take care of me. Whiskey River, take my mind. Don't let her memory torture me. Whiskey River, don't run dry. You're all I got, take care of me. Whiskey River, take my mind. Don't let her memory torture me. Whiskey River, don't run dry. All I got, take care of me. Thank you very much. She's a good-hearted woman in love with a good time, man. She loves him in spite of his ways that she don't understand. Through teardrops and laughter, they'll pass through this world hand in hand. This good-hearted woman in love with a good time, man. She's a good-hearted woman, love with a good time and man. She loves him in spite of his ways that she don't understand. Through teardrops and laughter, they'll pass through this world hand in hand. This good-hearted woman, they love with a good time and man. Thank y'all. We wrote a song a while back called Vote 'Em Out. If you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. That's the biggest gun we got. It's called the ballot box. So if you don't like who's in there, if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. That's what election day is all about. The biggest gun we got, called the ballot box. If you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. When we're done, we'll sing and laugh and shout. We'll run some new ones in. We'll start the show again. But if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Sing and dance. love you. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Brother Willie Nelson. And for this awesome band that has been so flexible to come here. Give it up, give it up. Yes. We say thank you, we love you. 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 That's a Moral Monday original. As people come out of jail. Willie has been so good to us today. We appreciate all of you. Stay connected to the movement. Go to poorpeoplescampaign.org. Keep up the pressure. This is not our last time at this State House until this State House is cleaned out. Is that right? All right, we say forward together. You say not one step back. Forward together. Forward together. Forward together. Now make some noise and send us out.